the date on it?
Yep.
Because the wording is the same, right?
Yep, the wording is the same. It's the date and the resolution number. The resolution number is 47.
Gotcha. I think I can make this one work.
Great.
Where they can see, they can start video.
Okay, we'll open up the meeting then to the general meeting number 511. I've counted up, we do have just barely a quorum. We have 7 members as far as I can see on. We all received a copy of the minutes of the previous meeting. And are there any corrections or admissions? That being so, I will accept a motion. Dave Floyd, motion to approve the minutes. We have a second. Okay, Bill, thank you. All in favor of the minutes of the previous meeting, show of hands. Okay, passed. Same thing with fiscal actions report. Everybody's had a copy of that. Any corrections? Motion to approve. Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
That's fiscal actions report has been approved. Project review actions report. I don't see Joe Stanek isn't with us today.
No, he's not.
We need somebody to read the, Ken, do you have a copy of the project review actions report in front of you?
I'll get it in a minute.
Any luck, Ken?
You're on mute, Ken.
Ken, you're muted, just so you know.
First, I have a copy if you'd like.
Okay, I believe that
Mr. Chairman, would you like
project
me-
review actions
Yeah.
report. I do have it. I just had to
Yeah.
make it large. So it's project review committee meet as a whole attached as table 1. Okay, the only application, as I believe we may know, is an application by Gary Ethier to operate a tour boat at Dunham's Bay Boat and Beach Club.
Oh, you jumped right into the,
Ken,
Yes,
I have, it's resolution number 202145. I've got it in front of me if you'd like me to read it.
yes,
that-
Bill Mason, if you would read the project review actions report, I'd appreciate it if you have a copy of it in front of you.
I'm looking right at it. Yes, sir.
Okay, just read it then.
Whereas the commission has received and reviewed the project review actions report prepared by staff and dated 10/20/21, and whereas the project review committee recommends acceptance of the project review actions report, now therefore be it resolved that the commission directs that the project review actions report be incorporated in the minutes of the full commission meeting. So moved.
You have a second? All in favor of approving the project review actions report, show of hands. Approved. The first project on the agenda, and the only one on the agenda, is a turboat application by Gary Ether, town of Queensbury. Joe, do you want to introduce that one?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So this is an application by Gary Ethier for a new tour boat to be operated out of Dunham's Bay. The marina facility currently owned by Murata, previously Salvador, Dunham's Bay Boat and Beach Club. It's authorized for up to 6 tour or charter boats. Currently, there are no tour or charter boats operating from this facility. So this does not represent a marina modification, but merely a look at the tour boat looking to fill one of these available spots. I can see that Mr. Ethier has joined us and he appears to be unmuted. So I'd invite you to introduce yourself and talk about the proposal a little bit.
Thanks, Joe. Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Ether. It's my wife, Lisa. We've been together 38 years. Real quick, just a summary on us. Married for 30. From Cohoes our whole lives. I'm a retired police officer over 10 years, and Lisa just retired this summer as a school teacher for 31 years. Most recently, Lake George has always been a part of our life. Most recently, last 5 years, we actually live in Dunluce Bay as well as others that are on this meeting. And we do have concerns as the others do, and we read through them all. But I just wanted to give you a little history on us. And since those 5 years, we've had our boat actually in Dunluce Bay, excuse me. And we have a slip there already, and we've been there for 5 years. In that 5 years, I've also driven tour boats for Adventure Tours, Scott from Adventure Tours, as well as the last 3-4 years driving the Tiki Tours down in the village for Greg Tracy and Larry Davis. I also go to Florida and also operate vessels in the Gulf of Mexico. I have a captain's master's license. My personal craft, which is the craft we're going to use, I probably do about 200 hours a season just personally. I'm on the lake all the time. I have thousands of hours in the last five years on the lake there. We just wanted to take the opportunity now that it arose for us to invest into the lake and start our own tour company. We love to entertain. We love to have people on our boat. We love to show people around. It's a great pleasure of ours to see people when they see the lake the first time, like we have, that we do every day. I've seen the concerns that people have. I tried to read through them briefly this morning. I believe there was 25 of them, and all 25 say pretty much the same thing. They're all worried about traffic and pollution and gas traffic. And I got to tell you, we have the same concerns. But our particular boat that doesn't affect any of that. We're there already. And I got to tell you, even Lisa was kind of on the fence because it will take away from our boat time on the lake, if anything. So if anything, our traffic and our own personal boat would be reduced because of the business now. But just to address, I believe it's Cheryl Baldwin, who is the president of the association in Dunluce Bay. Again, all the complaints and all the concerns are all the same, and she addresses them all in her letter. Boat traffic, we're there already. We are not creating any other boat traffic. Pollution, again, we're there already. If there's pollution, it's the same. And gas traffic was kind of interesting. Being there for 5 years, actually living right across from the boat club, and speaking with owners and previous owners and whatnot. There is not a lot of gas traffic at that dock. They have a hard time even paying their employees with the money, if they make any money on those docks at all with gas. There's not a lot of people coming in Dunluce Bay for gas outside of our own marina and the ones around us. But again, those complaints seem like they're with everybody around us. And we do have those same concerns. And as far as speeding outside the bay, just out and coming into the bay, I don't do that anyway. So there's no reason to start doing that. Again, I hear all their concerns. They're all pretty much the same. They all speak to the same thing. And those are things that we aren't adding to. If anything, they're being reduced. And I'd be happy to take anybody else's questions or hear anybody else out.
Any of the commissioners have any questions?
Ken, you're muted.
Justin,
Yeah,
can you see if there are any comments from the audience? I'm sure there are.
sure. But go ahead, Ken. Go.
I have one question. The description of the boat that's going to be used, I missed that. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It's actually my boat. It's actually a pontoon boat, and it's the boat I've had there for 5 years now.
Okay, well, 24.
I'm sorry, 24-foot tri-tune. It's over 150 horse.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Parker, could I make, I don't have any questions, but I do have something I'd like to say.
Ask the chairman.
Oh, Bruce,
Yeah.
Chairman, I don't have any questions right now, but I have a comment. Would you like me to wait until after the people that would like, the other people would like to speak first, and then I can make a comment?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll let people from the audience speak first.
Oh.
Justin, do you want to admit them? Anybody that wants to speak?
Sure. Jeff Branson, I see you have your hand up. If you'd like to go ahead.
I believe Kate was before me.
Okay. Kate, oh, I see you. Go ahead, Kate.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm a homeowner on Signpost Road, which is just off 9L. And I have a question about the possibility of car traffic and parking for people who are participating in the tours. On nice days in the summer, there's often sort of a traffic jam and a dangerous parking situation on the Bay Road side of the marina. And I think having people park their cars in the parking lot would sort of further displace boat owners into the road. And so I'm just curious what the agreement is with the marina in terms of car parking and how you would mitigate that situation.
Sure, Kate. Thank you. Thanks for your question. Actually, the docks that I rent come with a parking spot. And that's where they would actually park in my own, because I live next to the marina. I actually don't need my parking spot. So that actually kind of worked out in our favor. So they wouldn't tie up any traffic. And that is, again, that's a concern of ours, because we see it all and we feel it all as the speeders go by, and they have to jog in and out of pedestrian traffic as well as vehicle traffic. But yes, they'd be actually off the road. They'd be actually my parking spot.
Jeff, you want to go ahead?
Gary, thank you for your presentation. And I'm in the Dunham's Bay, the Joshua's Rock settlement across the bay from you. We really appreciate your sensitivity with regard to the impact on the bay as a whole. And I personally welcome the economic impact. Anytime a small business comes to the lake that's based on the lake, I think that's a, particularly with the sensitivity that we seem to have applied to this, that's a positive addition to the community. My question are, there are two. One is, do you foresee any noise impact associated with the charters? And what are the size of the charters? And I'll take my question offline. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Jeff. The noise, no. There's no. We're not going to do booze cruises or party cruises. It's strictly a sightseeing tour. We can, I believe, until I get the approval from the state inspections office, I'm judging 8 people max. And again, like I was saying earlier, it's actually reduced. I have a good sized tri-tune, and we usually entertain more than that. So it would be 8 passengers total. I don't even know, if it'd be once or twice a day. But as far as noise, music or yelling and screaming, no, I wouldn't allow anything like that. We don't do that now. It's more of a pleasure tour, relax. It's on a pontoon, do a little sightseeing. I'm not even a big fan of tubing, to tell you the truth. Just kind of like sightseeing out in maybe take a swim and whatnot. That's the kind of tours we're actually pushing. I kind of even stray away from the tubing itself, just because of the congestion and the liability it brings. I'm not a big fan of that. But no, definitely, I wouldn't worry about noise or anything like that. Thanks, Jeff.
Lorraine, I saw you had your hand up. Did you want to make a comment? Go ahead. You are muted.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Well, good morning, Chairman Young and commissioners. I'm speaking on behalf of the Assembly Point Water Quality Coalition, and we're asking you to reject this request of the custom boat tours. Our principal objection is that this activity would be in addition to the 65 boat slips that are in Dunham's Bay, the 140 boat slips that are in the Dunham's Bay Marsh area, the Freedom Boat Club, which has 14 intensively used pontoon boats, boats at private docks in Dunham's Bay, and the boats that are launched in the Paria boat launch. I think it's already been mentioned that the above activities have created a situation that has really worsened the road traffic and the boat congestion this summer in a region that your recreational study says is already over capacity. If any of you have left Assembly Point and are coming down into Dunham's Bay, you know the traffic at that point is going at least 55 miles an hour, and there are no sidewalks on either side of the road along the bend in Dunham's Bay. So this is potentially a very dangerous situation, not only for the boat congestion, but for the road congestion. So I'd like to know, what data you're using to make your decision. If you're using your recreational study, if you're considering the additional traffic in this area, from the $1 million boat launch. If you know the number of boats that were launched from the Paria boat launch in 2019, 2020, 2021. And if you know the precise number of boats in the Dunham's Bay marsh area. We really feel that this additional activity, will impact the safety in this area. So we ask you to protect this area. And if you do allow any tour boat operations, that they are operated in an area that is not already congested. Thank you.
Commissioner, is that my question answered? Could I add into that?
Go ahead, Gary.
Lorraine, thanks again. And again, Lorraine, we have the same concerns. We literally live right there where you're talking about, where traffic is, the way we come around that corner, it's terrible. I've actually called the sheriff's department myself to try to have them monitor that road. That's how bad it is, walking to our own boat personally. But again, to answer your questions, what we're going to be doing does not affect any traffic. It doesn't create any more traffic than what's there already. We already have that boat slip. It's our boat. So I'll be coming and going either way. So we don't produce any more traffic or pollution or any kind of congestion with parking or anything. It's actually a great setup, a great opportunity, and a great place to alleviate compared to the other tour companies. But thank you.
Alleviate.
Anybody else, Justin?
If there's anyone else that would like to speak, please unmute yourself and state your name.
What's that thing? No, you almost hit it there.
All right, I'm not hearing anything, Bruce.
Right, the green.
Okay,
Hello.
Oh,
no more comments?
Yes.
Okay, we've got a few. Lido, did I hear you?
Yes. For some reason, there is no screen, but what I would like to know is, the first thing is, Gary did mention that they would be taking groups out and that there would be looking at the lake, but then maybe swimming and so on. And I kind of wonder about the lack of facilities on the boat. I think that in the application, it said that there were no facilities, but I have an overall concern, and that is, this is kind of opening Pandora's box. There's going to be tons of these little companies starting up and using the lake. And I'm wondering, considering the data that Lorraine Ruffing was talking about, has the Lake George Park Commission done a thorough study of the situation? And before granting any kind of a license to somebody to operate like this, shouldn't this be studied over a period of time with a group of people, not just the Lake George Park Commission, but other people that are from the area concerned, that should be a part of this whole conversation. I really think that there should be a conversation. Now, I just want to mention, I personally tried to do a little boat tour down in Lake George Village and a little quiet drive. And now there are parasailing boats all over. And so we figured we better get out of here. That has become kind of dangerous. And I'm just wondering, where is the control on all of this? And I really would like to see a moratorium on giving out any of these permits to an individual, and until we get a better plan in place, considering the data that Lorraine Ruffing was referencing. At the end of this bay, we have a whole bunch of boats all lined up. Now, how many of these are going to be similarly applying for becoming a little tour business? So I really think that we need to be cautious here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lito. And again, we are also from the area, and we're well aware of how it works, and we've been around long enough to see what the need is and how to avoid things like that. And you're right, the village is congested. Like I said, I drive the tiki boat down there for the last 3 years, and it's challenging. It really is. But again, Dunham's Bay, I believe, is already permitted for these boats, and it already has been looked in and permitted years ago. Sorry, just trying to answer your questions. There's again, there won't be any additional traffic or boat traffic or vehicle traffic. How our plan is going to be executed. Thanks, Leo.
Carol, I see your hand up.
Thanks, Justin.
Sure.
What I keep hearing over and over again here is that everybody knows this is dangerous and is going to add to problems. Just to get back to the parking situation and people walking across that road, there's a potential of 8 more cars parking, really who knows where. The parking is, there's that spot where you're parking on the water. I call it the Jesus territory. And that doesn't seem like something where you really want a business working out of. If you have to cross the street, you're running into 55-mile-an-hour traffic. This is an additional 8 cars. It almost seems like this is becoming a Department of Transportation issue that we really need to identify and solve some of these problems first. We over and over again, we know this is one of the most congested places on all of Lake George. We know the Park Commission often has models for people on the other side of the lake to boat over on this side of the lake. So we're adding more and more. We don't know right now what your specifications for tours are. We know it's 1 a day, 2 a day, it could be 3 a day. You don't know that. We don't know that. I think this needs more thought, not a delay. I mean, I think it shouldn't be allowed, but the whole prospect of this explosion on Lake George is important. Then I really feel the park commissioners want to take care of it, but just letting it go and go and go, it might not be the right technique.
Sure. Thanks, Carol. Again, the parking is, I have that parking spot in the lot. The overflow seems to be, believe it or not, the street I'm on is Alexi Lane, which is, it turned into a pretty good parking lot across the street. You're right. And it is terrible. Again, that traffic coming around that corner. And again, I've called myself, some people are good. Some people are bad with the speeding, but that's something we're not gonna be able to control either way. And that's the liability that comes with the business. That would be on me. But as far as the boat traffic itself, the tours we're doing, this is not my full-time job. This is not something we need to survive on. This is just something we're doing ourselves just because we know we could do it great, and we could benefit the town, the village, the tourists, and control it. Like your concerns were. I'm not looking to go out 20 times a day and this and that. We're out all day. We're out all day anyway. And I think it's a great fit for us. It's a great fit for Dunham's Bay. It really is. But I hear your concerns, and the tours we'll have will be, I don't want to do, I don't want to drive that much all day. It'll be me and Lisa, and we're planning on one or two if we even get that. I don't know what this is going to attract, and we'll look at it again next year. And it's a learning curve for us as two going in. I just know that we can do it well, and we could reevaluate at any time.
Well, isn't that nice? You get to reevaluate.
Phil Mitchell, I see you raising your hand.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't see where to do the official hand raise in Zoom, so
That's all right.
Anyhow, yeah, I'm in Dunham's Bay. I just, Lake George Village is Lake George Village, and it got that way by 1,000 different people moving forward a little bit with their plans for another t-shirt shop or another restaurant or who knows what, one after another. And, I can sort of see it spreading to Dunham's Bay. This particular application is, one more in the 1,000 cuts that's going to change the whole characteristic of the bay. On the face of it, it seems like it's going to fit in and be just fine. This is just one small thing, but as others have mentioned, if people build off of this, like the next 10 docks turn into 10 tours a day, that's going to be something. This, not so much. What's proposed here is not terribly dangerous and it's not awful, but golly, you can see where things are headed. We've got a bar restaurant out over the lake now too, which is, if the people use it responsibly, and I think they will, it'll probably be okay. But it was an awful thing to be constructed to have yet another business here. And here's yet another
recording in progress.
So that's my piece. We got to stop somewhere. It seems a shame to stop this one, but the development should stop.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for seeing it that way and being realistic, open-minded. Again, the Park Commission does control that moving forward in the future, but as far as our plans, there's no characteristics that are going to change the bay. Again, it's our boat. It's there anyway. It's a pontoon boat that can hold 12 people. It's been reduced down to 8 people. So again, we're there anyway. It's not like we're just coming in. We live there. I'm looking right at it. There's no change. There's no change. Like I said, if anything, it's reduced. But thanks.
Yeah, but it'll be hard to stop the people at the next 3 docks from doing the same thing, or maybe even excessive after they see you getting permitted for 1 or 2 trips a day.
Sure, and again,
do.
Sure, again, and I'm sure the commission would take that into consideration. I'm going forward.
All right, anyone else wish to make a comment?
I would like to, Justin.
Okay, go ahead, Dan.
So Gary, while I don't disagree with your use, in fact, I'd rather see something like what you have come in and out of the bay. We have major issues right now with regards to Perillo's Marina and the day launches that go in and out. The good news is that good stewardship of the water quality, at least there's an attempt there. My major concern is more along the lines of not as much the current boat traffic. You operating will operate as any responsible owner will But again, the traffic that you're going to generate on the road and within that area should be a major concern. And if you have 8 people show up in 8 separate cars, and my background is commercial real estate development, it's what I live every day. I've lived in the house that I live in Dunham's Bay on Assembly Point for 20 years. And the other 33 years I spent on the other side of Dunham's Bay with my family. Lexi Road, I don't know whether it's private or public. If it's public, Queensbury maintains it, which means that you would have to apply to Queensbury to make sure that there's allowable use for adding parking on that road. If it's private, you have to have an agreement with the landowners on either side that own 20 feet up to the center line of the road on either side. So I get the 1 car thing at the marina side where your launch is, but at the end of the day, I just don't see how you can accommodate parking for potentially 8 other cars. Do you have an agreement with the hotel? And if you have an agreement with the hotel, they already have zoning that requires them to have the current amount of parking spots that they have that was approved years ago. So I just don't see where you're going to park these cars. That's of more concern, meaning that, again, the bay itself, people coming through Dunham's Bay on 9L are going to have to be a hell of a lot more concerned.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. And you're right. The traffic is always a concern, but the reality is, as you probably know, 8 cars. You have 8 people. 8 people aren't driving their cars. Luckily, but we do have that 1 spot, and we also have a parking lot as well in my own place. If that became an issue, I don't see it becoming an issue, just because Algae is being utilized right now. Again, I'm not a big fan of that either. It's right. I look out my window and see that. But that would be the overflow would be, and it is a public street. You're right. But there is plenty of parking there, and it actually is off the beaten path where you're not in the traffic. You're just taking a right turn and you're off the main roadway. You're not hemming and hawing. But that is a concern, and I got to tell you, Dan, it's my concern every day I'm there, even walking to my own boat. Again, I keep going back to that. People fly around that corner, and even with the trees in the marina, you can't see around the corner. So it is a concern, and I'm well aware of that. And I think we have a pretty good plan for that. Like I said, the parking spot in the marina, as well as just common street parking. I think we should be fine. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
All right. Kit, I saw your hand up.
Hi, I'm part of the Joshua's Rock family settlement on the other side of the bay. And I am glad to hear, Gary, that you are concerned about the parking, because that roadway, as you know, is like the Indy 500. People come whipping around that curve, and I've often seen people trying to cross the road to get to the lodge, or a dog will run out in the roadway, and it's just a very dangerous area as is. So I'm glad to hear that you're sensitive to some of those issues. My question to you is, what is the attraction in Dunham's Bay? I mean, why? We love it because our family has been there for many generations, and most of the cottages are modest, family homes. And I'm wondering what a tour would consist of around the bay. What will you be pointing out? I mean, there are family homes, and then there are, a lineup of boats that are docked at the bottom of the bay. So I understand that you're there, but it sounds to me like the reason for all of this is just that you are there, rather than that there is some scenic or, particularly interesting site to show off. So I'm wondering what what you will be showing, what you will be pointing to, what people will be looking at, other than, you know, families sitting around enjoying their homes.
Thanks, Kit. You know, I got to tell you, we absolutely fell in love with Lake George, just like you did. And it is really a pleasure of ours to entertain and to show people the lake as we see it. It truly is. Again, we're not just I hate even saying tour boat. It sounds like a tour boat company coming in and taking over your lake. We live there. We're here. We're here. So that's why we do have all those concerns. As far as what we're looking at, I'd love to invite you on a tour to show you my spiel. But I have been driving for 4 years now for other tour companies as well as a tiki tour, and I show the whole most of the history of the lake. I wish I paid attention more when I was a kid, but as what I've learned from being there for 5 years, as far as from Tea Island right up to Sagamore. So it's not just in the bay. Actually, we'll just be coming out of the bay. And again, even with the other tour, even with the tiki boat, more specifically, I don't even like taking the same routes to bother people that live there, to annoy people. You know, most people are friendly, but they wave, they ring bells, they blow horns, and you know, they accept you. But you know, I don't think I'd want somebody driving by my house 40 times a day on a tiki boat. So I kind of actually usually take different paths just to avoid that. But I point out everything, Kit. Everything I know, like I said, from the history of Tea Island, from the ships, some homes and whatnot.
Well, I understand Tea Island is, you know, an interesting little place, and the Sagamore is interesting. But what are you pointing out in Dunham's Bay beyond people's private homes?
Well, no, nothing. I wouldn't be pointing anything out besides the beauty of it. I'm not specifically pointing at anything in the Dunham's Bay area. It's just my avenue out and back in. It's more of the lake itself, the experience on the lake. Did you hear that, Kit?
Yes, but the lake experience is usually felt out on the lake, not in a bay surrounded by family homes and a boat, you know, big boat launch. So it just seems a little unusual to me.
No, right. I'm not staying in Dunham's Bay. I'm driving through Dunham's Bay, come back in to get to the lake and back from the lake. It wouldn't be around Dunham's Bay. I'm exiting Dunham's Bay to get into the lake.
Okay.
All right.
Can't have some more objections and you're.
All right. Is there anybody else that would like to make a
Question,
comment?
I've got a question.
Okay. Who's
Rich,
that?
Rich Gordon, I'm the operations manager at the Dunham's Bay Resort.
Okay.
Hi, Gary, how are you?
Hey, Rich.
Just a couple things maybe you could clarify for me and for the rest of the people on the meeting here. Kind of give us the logistics of somebody shows up to do it on your tour boat. What's your relationship with the Dunham's Bay Beach and Boat Club? Are the restrooms open? Do they have, if they have garbage to throw away, do you throw it in their garbage? Just give us a little rundown of what your relationship is with the beach club and how that relates to, you know, your business. Because as people come in, obviously it happens. They need to use the bathroom, they need to throw stuff away, they bring stuff in, so give us the rundown, please.
Sure. There's bathrooms to use there, as you know, garbage containers on the property as well as my boat. So all that's been covered. We take them on a tour, we come back and I send them to your restaurant and advise them that they got great food there and a great place to stay if they want to spend the night.
Well, that's a good answer. Where exactly will you be loading? I'm a little confused as to where the boats.
Rich, it's going to be the boathouse area right across from you at the boathouse area there. So it's actually it's nice because it's separate from the the marina, should you say, the private entity of the marina. So it's kind of like off the beaten path and just next to Freedom. I know you're familiar with it.
Yes. And, we share the other people's concerns with parking and traffic. I mean, it gets crazy. It does get crazy here in the summer on 9L. And, it's, I hold my breath every year.
Yes, I know.
watching
And I know,
somebody's-
I'm concerned about your dog and mine as well when we walk them. I'm always looking out.
So, okay, thank you very
Thanks.
much. Appreciate
Thanks,
the
Rich.
information.
Thanks, Rich.
Okay, anybody else?
I have one more question,
Yeah, Kate.
Justin. Gary, you said you were sort of feeling your way on this. You try it, see how it worked out. Would you be amenable to trying it for a year and then coming back to the Park Commission or the Dunham's Bay Association and discussing how it worked out over the year and then reevaluating?
I'd be more than happy to have a conversation about it. I wouldn't put an expiration date or if that's what you're asking me to do. But I would be more than happy to speak with even yourself, if you wanted to stop by and see me. I'd be more than happy to show you and go over the whole thing with you.
But I guess I'm thinking in terms of this as a pilot project of some sort where people could weigh in on how they felt it affected them, if at all.
I got to tell you, Kit, being your neighbor, you could come to me anytime with any concern, and I'd work with anybody if there is an issue or potential issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Kit.
All right, anybody else? Okay, I think that's it.
Thank
That's
you.
Thank you, Justin.
Sure.
Thank you. And thank you for all your comments from the audience. Appreciate it. At this point, are there any comments from the commissioners? I remember that Kathy wanted to say something. So Kathy, I'll call on you if you want to make your comments at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, one of the things that I've thought about is the fact that the authorization for the marina to have the tour boats was given in 1990. Now we're dealing with 32 years later. The situation on the lake is not the same as it was back then. I just want that in the record. Another thing is when you go through the seeker and you just do it for one individual boat, it's easy to be able to say and check, oh yeah, there's hardly any or none to moderate impact. There's, nothing's going to affect the lake in a negative, adverse way. But when you multiply that by all the boats that are in Dunham's Bay, it changes the whole scenario. However, that's not the way the application is worded. So we have to deal with what we're given. Another thing is, over the years, since more people have come to us wanting to get their PV license and operate a tour boat, my initial reaction was, oh gosh, this is really good, because now we're going to have more tour boats driven by people that know what they're doing as far as operating a vessel on the lake. It will take away from the number of people that are going to be renting boats, and we'll have more responsible people piloting the boats on the lake. However, I want this on the record. Last summer, my husband and my 5-year-old granddaughter and I were moored out at Sandy Bay towards the mouth of the bay. So we weren't in where it was really shallow. And we were very lucky to get this place to tie up. However, I don't think there were any more moorings left. Later on in the afternoon, a boat left. At the same time that boat was taking off, 2 boats were coming in, and literally they were going a heck of a lot faster than the no wake limit, because they were racing to go to that buoy. Well, I'm like, slow down, slow down. And one was coming on the eastern, from both sides of the bay, eastern side and the western side. Anyhow, when the boat that was closest to us passed, there is a PV written on the side of the boat. And the boat was full of a family. There were tons of people on the boat, probably 7 or 8, maybe 9. And they had all the bells and whistles and all the toys and everything. And here was the deal. This guy said, oh yeah, we're gonna go swimming. Well, goes into the bay, there's hardly any, there's nothing, you know, one buoy left, and there's another boat going for it. So there he flies through the bay, and there's people swimming, there's children swimming, there's people on floats, people on paddle boards. Anyhow, he won. And he was way down where it's very shallow. So unfortunately, I was not able to take his registration number. But what I'm trying to say is, you know, I'm not saying that Gary is going to do anything like that, but things have changed. In other words, just because you're a PV operator doesn't mean that you're going, you know, you want to make your clients happy. And if it involves, you know, maybe overstepping the rules, some of these PV operators have done that. I want everybody to know that I read all of your concerns, and I know how much has been done to clean up Dunham's Bay. I commend you for it. I mentioned that a couple of years ago when Freedom Boat Club went in, and I'm in there buying gas with because we were friends with the Salvadors. But I will tell you, I feel that right now, I agree with everything you're saying, but the fact that the marina does have the authorization, it's very difficult to say can't have a tour boat. Thank you.
Is there anybody out of the commissioners that want to make any comments on this application?
See a couple hands up. Bill, you had your hand up first.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 2 issues that I can't get around. One is I drive through that bay on Route 9L constantly, and I try and go slow to all the neighbors. I'm sorry if I'm one of the offenders that tends to hit up to 45 or 50 miles an hour. You have no business doing that in that bay. It's unsafe, and you really should be driving about 35, no more than that. I think there's a real safety issue that needs more consideration here when you do have, you know, as I do the math, if you have 8 people, that's probably 4 cars reasonably, not 8 cars, but there's no room for any more cars in that bay. It's too crowded. We need to deal with that somehow, and I don't know how that is taken care of. The other thing is, in the time I've been on this commission, every single time that an application comes up, we talk about a recreation study and the fact that different areas are over capacity or under capacity, and we use that to help guide decisions. This bay is way over capacity. It's a very residential bay that the residents of the bay are trying desperately to keep it residential. And I would agree with the statement that this is sort of like a death by 1,000 cuts, that you just continue to put small things in, small incremental businesses come in. Each one of them doesn't impact it that much, but taken as a whole, they really do. So I just can't I'm trying to, I agree with what Kathy said. It seems like they have the approval already. But whatever I can do as a commissioner, I can't vote in favor of this right now without taking this more into consideration. Thank you.
Any other commissioners have any comments?
Ken, I see here.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear from Joe Tuen and Dave Wick. I know that there's a history with this marina permit and the fact that tour boats have already been a part of their permit, and maybe they can enlighten us with some details on that, because in my years on the Park Commission, that permit pre-exists that. Also, the word tour boats is so scary to many of us because we do look at the Adirondack and the Ticonderoga and blah, 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 when we think of the word tour boat. So it's a case of semantics there. But the Park Commission has a short history in truth with tour boats, and I thought maybe staff could enlighten us all on those two items.
Sure thing.
Joe Tuen?
Dave can cover anything that I might miss. As far as this particular permit, it's authorized for 3 fishing charters and 3 tour boat, sightseeing, water skiing type charter boats. That's in the existing marina permit. I look back through the records. It's been through all, in all the marina permits, and it appears it's something Mr. Salvador registered for back in 1990 when we first started looking at recreational uses. So this would represent, currently there are no tour boats, as I mentioned earlier, that operate at the facility, despite the facility being authorized for 6. Looking at the number of boats that might be berthed here, as Mr. Ethier mentioned, and is not uncommon for other facilities where, they might not have Lake George camping equipment comes to mind, right? They're authorized for a lot of different stuff that simply doesn't fit on the docks. And so in Mr. Ethier's case, and with many of the marinas, the use of a tour boat is replacing a seasonal berthing space. It's not in addition to, and so the impact it might be less than it was back in 1990 when it was registered, when it was X number of seasonal berthing places plus the tour boats. With respect to tour boats, we've recognized an uptick, and that's why we look at these. We didn't used to look at tour boat applications unless it was a marina modification. As of 2018, we look at every single new tour boat operation, so that way the neighborhood, the business owners, the residents, and the board can look at each and every operation, speak to each individual captain, understand the route and the number of days. So that way, we have an opportunity to look at the recreation study, the individual locations and each individual operation. And that's sort of why we've seen so many. It seems like we've looked at and authorized a lot, and it's because it's something that we decided to actively administer where we didn't in the past. So we are gaining a better understanding of the tour boat use on the lake, and total congestion, total impacts, as Kathy was alluding to, is something we should be looking at long term and as kind of part of this program. But I'm getting off track a little bit. But yeah, so tour boats, we understand there are a number of them. We look at each individual one. So again, we have this opportunity to reflect on them in light of the data and the individual operations. And as far as this facility is concerned, it is authorized for 6, and currently there are none. I should mention, as far as parking, we're all aware of the parking on the lake side of the facility. This is I believe it's close to a 6-acre facility. On the south side of 9L is an additional 3 acres that is identified as overflow parking at this facility, with a couple areas particularly pointed out as being cleared for parking. So if there is an issue, if the new landlord finds an issue with parking long-term, it's not a situation where we're short on real estate. There may be potential to expand parking if necessary. So just wanted to point that out.
Joe, would you say it's fair, other than the real quote unquote tour boats that are down to the Lake George Village area, that the tour boats that we've been monitoring and permitting in the last 3 years plus are kind of like what you and I might own a 24, 26-foot Sea Ray or Picket brand or a pontoon boat such as that. It's not really a tour boat where you've got 35 passengers going by.
Right, and that's historically why we only administered 2 quote unquote tour boats, which was a boat by policy or practice we identified as a boat that was going to take a trip, whether it had passengers or not. You know, you think of the big steamboats, right? They're going to leave at noon on Tuesday and take a trip, whether they've got 5 passengers or 50. We expanded that jurisdiction because the regulation allowed us to administer 2 charter boats, small operations such as these, which are, you know, sort of typical family type vessels. Mr. Ethier, the way, you know, he describes his history and interest is very common to what we've been seeing for these tour boats. It's folks that are recently retired. They know the lake. They want to share their experience. They have their own boat. You know, they're not going out and buying big, different, you know, commercial boats. They basically, you know, probably had a friend say, geez, you're really good at this. And they're kind of expanding a personal interest and hobby, you know, in a commercial aspect. So it's more of these small mom and pop types, if I may, rather than the Hurricane and the larger steamboats.
And finally, just for the record, in my 40+ history on the lake, I fully understand the situation of Dunham's Bay. When the Howards were running Dunham's Bay Sea Ray, we all remember that they were very, very successful there, and that created, I would say, a great amount of traffic. But I don't think there's been any quote unquote change in marinas in Dunham's Bay in my memory. In other words, you've had what exists there now. There have been no newly created exposures. Boat size has changed a little bit and things like that, but I don't think there's anything new on Dunham's Bay. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from commissioners? I have a question for Joe and anybody that visited the site. Has the Dunham Bay Boats Club designated any parking areas for their own people and for these? I'm concerned that there's where are you going to park these cars, and I certainly don't want to see any more cars on Dunham's Bay Road because it's obviously congested out there. I don't. The picture that was sent showed boats with cars with trailers parked out there, and I can understand that those are much more difficult to find a parking place for it. But I haven't been convinced that there's nobody's told me exactly where we're going to park the customers that are going to go on this boat tour, and that's one of my main concerns. Not so much I'm not concerned about this one or two trips a day out of there by the boat. I'm concerned where we're going to put the people's automobiles that are going to come there to get on the boats. Do you have any? Is there any word? I'd rather hear a comment from the Dunham's Bay Boat Club saying that they have adequate parking.
Bruce, can I just interject? Can I answer that for you, or is that okay to speak? Again, we have a spot, or actually 2 spots in the parking lot itself. Actually nowhere near Dunham's Bay Road. It's in the marina itself, as well as if there Algae Lane, but also my own parking lot, driveway park. If that became an issue, I just don't foresee that being an issue. But I am, again, always have been concerned about the traffic and how people do drive through there. It just seems like everybody has the same concerns, including me. And how to go about rectifying that is by other avenues, you know, crosswalk, stop signs, lights and whatnot, speed reducing signs. But I just don't see there is no. I'm not adding to that problem by doing this. It's just not there, you know. But I'd be more than happy to help you with any other issue.
Are you saying you have a designated spots in the club?
I do. Yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Bill, since Joe isn't here today, I think I'd ask you if you would read the resolution. And do you have a copy of the resolution that you can find? You're on the project review committee, so I'm deputizing you to do it.
Good, yeah.
Did you say me? Did you say me, Bruce?
Yes.
All right. I'm looking for the, here we are. Okay, I'll read the resolution as written, okay? Application number TV 21-000020 SPT. Applicant is Gary Ithier. Whereas the applicant has applied for a permit to operate a tour boat, whereas the Lake George Park Commission has reviewed the application, supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record, and whereas the commission has made a determination that the project is an unlisted action pursuant to State Environmental Quality Review Act 6 NYCRR 617.5, and as lead agency for the purposes of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, has made a determination that the project will have no significant impact on the environment. And whereas the action is considered to be a major project pursuant to 6 NYCRR 645-5.3, and public notice has been published and distributed as required. And whereas the applicant has demonstrated that the activity complies with the tour boat requirements of 646-1.4 D2, and whereas the commission finds that the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, or welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential character of the area in which it is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, and will not have an undue visual, cultural, or audible impact on the neighborhood of the park or the park. Now therefore be it resolved, the Lake George Park Commission hereby approves the above application as proposed. And I probably shouldn't make that motion. Someone else should.
It's right, because does anybody want to make a motion?
Dave Floyd has made a motion.
I'll second
Justin, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the application by any of the commissioners? I think we need a roll call vote on this because I can't see everybody. So as a matter of fact, I can't see Justin. I don't see all the commissioners on them. And
All right, I'll read down my list for a roll call vote. Bill Mason?
No.
Okay. Let's see here. Dave Floyd?
I didn't hear the vote.
Yes.
Okay. Jim Nishaw?
Aye.
Kathy?
No.
Who am I missing here?
Me,
Ken, what do you got?
yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Did I miss anybody?
Aaron.
Aaron, sorry.
I didn't get a tally there because I didn't hear everybody. Did you get Dean Cook?
Not yet. Dean? Dean,
do
are
we
you
actually
there?
have a quorum?
We have 7 commissioners, Mr. Chairman.
We have 7 commissioners. Is that counting Dean?
That does count Dean.
But we can't hear from Dean.
Yeah, Dean's not answering.
Didn't we have Aaron
I
here?
believe we have 8 commissioners because Jim Nishaw.
Mr. Nishaw came on. I apologize. We have 8 now.
I counted 8 as well.
So I follow the title. I couldn't hear everybody responding. We only have 6 commissioners responding, correct?
We had,
Michelle or
so the only commissioner not responding was Dean. So that leaves us with 7 responses. Bill Mason was a no. Kathy, I'm sorry, what was your response?
She was a no.
Kathy was a no.
So that's 2 no's.
We have 5
So
A's
that's
and 2 nays.
So it's 5 yeses and 2 no's, which means that the motion has failed.
Right. We heard from Dean Cook, it may change.
I'm trying to reach Dr. Cook as we speak.
Sorry? I didn't understand you, Dave.
Dave is calling Dean to see if he's available to give his vote.
He was on earlier.
So
He
was
was
Aaron.
on earlier.
How can we reject something that's already been that were approved for 6 slots? It amazes me.
We're not rejecting the slots, we're rejecting this application, but I agree with you. That's a complication that should have been addressed a long time ago.
Yes.
I'll tell you one thing I'll be in favor of is getting out of these Zoom meeting programs and going back to real live people.
We're waiting for Dave to get in touch with Dean.
What, Commissioner, what is the, you said it was rejected. What's the tally of the number? The numbers?
We need 6 votes in order to approve the motion. At the present time, it's 5 and 2.
Okay. You need 6 approvals, you mean, to approve it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many commissioners are there?
There's 10 total.
10.
But we only have 8, we only have 7 present today, as far as the count I heard. Actually, we're only missing Dean and John McDonald.
And Joe Stanek. Joe Stanek's out because of.
Did we get Aaron? I didn't hear whether or not we got Aaron's vote.
I believe we did, didn't we, Michelle?
Did we get Aaron's vote? I'm sorry? We got Nishaw's vote.
We did get Aaron's vote and Jim Nishaw's vote.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, all right, I'll do it for the meeting here. All right. Okay, thank you. Dr. Cook is having trouble with his audio and his video. He has heard all of conversation. He just can't respond and his video is not working. He has voted no. I asked if he could get on video or audio to do it individually. He's having no luck doing so. So he asked if I would represent his position. So that's a question for council. But that's what he told me just 2 seconds ago.
It's really not something that you can do, even though you're the executive director. And quite honestly, if it was a no vote, it doesn't change the way the vote is right now, because there's still only five yeses.
Right.
So the motion would fail because it doesn't have the appropriate number of yay votes. So we'll just have to have Commissioner Cook will just not be able to vote on this one.
Sir, couldn't this
In
be,
that case,
wouldn't this be tabled then if the meeting, you couldn't even hold the executive board meeting because you would not enough people? Would that be
No.
tabled or is it something I'd have to reapply for?
We have a quorum. We just don't have, you just did not obtain the requisite number of yay votes. There's a full quorum to vote.
Okay. And now would this have to be reapplied for, or what would my next step of action be? Obviously, attorneys, lawyer, apply. I mean, that's what we have to do. That would be my next course of action.
Would either Carla or Dave explain to Gary what his alternatives are, please?
Thank you.
Which one do you want? What are the alternatives for the applicant? Now that this has been turned down.
But you always have the right to obtain counsel at this point if you would like to, and come back to the board on that. You, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, you would have the right to request a hearing on this as well, an adjudicatory hearing if you would want to. At this point, the best thing for you to do would be, if you want to, contact counsel, separate counsel. As Park Commission counsel, we can't advise what to do. You would also want to go and you can call up Mr. Wick, or you could go on the website to look at the specific regulations that permit you to move forward to see what you can do. You can always go back and reapply with a different application. That's brand new application. You have the right to do that as well.
Okay.
So we could just, Mr. Arthur, I'm not sure if you were committed to Dunham's Bay. The concerns that you heard today were all related to the Dunham's Bay area specifically. There are other areas in Lake George that are less concerning to the general public to be operating out of. Joe Thillen is the person that administers this part of the program. I would encourage you to reach out to Joe, see if there are potentially other areas that you would be interested in working in. If that is the case, I encourage you to work with Joe. If you're only interested in working out of Dunham's Bay, then as our counsel noted, we advise you to discuss with counsel your options.
Yeah, I'm going to have to, unfortunately. Okay, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
That being the case, the commission, this application has been denied and the applicant has been advised of his alternative. And I think that just for the application, I think the commission should look at, I'll make a comment at this time. I agreed with Kathy and a couple other commissioners that we're put in a bind here with a permit that was granted many years ago for turboat applications, and the situation has changed drastically. And we have just denied the applicant, even though the RENA has the right to have a turbo, has the right to have 6 turbos actually, which is in my mind right now an absurd number. I think the commission should take a look at what our actions are, and that would be up to Carla and Dave to look and see if there's any way of us rectifying so we don't get put in this position again of perfectly logical turboat operators applying to a marina, which in this case is questionable as to whether or not it can handle 1 turbo, let alone 6. And that said, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a presentation on the Civic system update. And Ken Parker and Dave Wick would present that, and I don't know which one of you want to go first. Dave, do you want to go first, or do you want to let Kenny speak first?
I believe Ken's going to start us off.
I'm first, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. I think that we're all well aware of the Park Commission's beginning efforts on the Lake George Basin-wide septic initiative. There's been conversation from some of our numerous prior meetings that maybe we start talking about this being a septic management program, but that's a decision to we'll be working on down the road. I would first just like to, if anybody is a fan of the Lake George mirror, the history, Tony had the short history of septic issues in the October 8th mirror. And I just want to read you the first paragraph. In 1918, a consolidated health district comprising the Lake George Basin towns was established, enabling them to pool their resources to hire a full-time health officer and staff to prevent affluents from cesspools and privies from polluting the lake. The district, however, was abolished by an act of the state legislature within a few years after that. And there's been some other efforts, but I thought that was a pretty interesting fact going back to 1918. Bringing you up to date on where we are with it, we have the Park Commission subcommittee that the chairman appointed early this year does meet once a month in person. And with that, we also have the Park Commission ad hoc committee, which is conducted by Zoom. And we have just tremendous amount of input from those folks that are on the ad hoc committee, and tremendous amount of input from the citizens, residents, interested parties on the issue. So we are making some ground, and we're sticking to the science of the project and the practicality of the project. We're talking about, if we get involved, the method of the inspections, because there's from the two existing programs that are on the lake currently, Queensbury and Bolton, they both do it a little bit differently. Who's right, who's wrong? Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. The cost of the inspections, who's going to pay for the inspections, who's going to monitor the inspections. Inspection or design being a very important subject. So one of the conclusions that we came to was that design is very important. And we went ahead and appointed, actually we surveyed the professionals in the area, and every single one agreed to serve. And I'd like to just list them for you so that you know who we're getting our advice from. Tom Jarrett, Chris Nowitzki, Sean Doty of Shazen, Dave Hatton, Queensbury, Eric Murdoch, Kathy Suazo, Tom Snow, New York State DEC, who's down in the Hudson area, Kevin Kenyon, who New York State DOH, and they have scheduled their first meeting coming up. And that's a side project parallel to the primary project that we're going to be talking about, that when we get to who needs a septic change, what advice can we offer them? Who can we send them to get the new design and the new correct design? David and the staff have created a wonderful PowerPoint presentation. And David, are we ready to go with that?
I believe we are. Thank you, Ken. So I'll try to share my screen with everybody and see how this works here. Okay. Ken, can we see this right now?
Yes, sir.
Looking good. Yes, I can see it.
Good. So let me minimize that. And we'll get started. So Ken, thanks for the great background. I'm going to take you through about 10 or 15 minutes of a little bit of history, where we are currently and what we're looking to do possibly in the future. This presentation is as much for our 5 commissioners that haven't been a part of this process fully, as we have 10 commissioners, 5 of which are members of the active committee, 5 of which are not. So I'm going to start with kind of the high level overview and then just go into a few details, and then the commissioners can start asking questions after that. And then of course, the general public at the chairman's discretion. Starting out, for those that aren't as familiar with septics as others, here's a typical septic system. Your house drains out to a septic tank to catch the solids. The liquid portion drains out into a drain field on the property. The soil acts to clean up the phosphorus, the nitrogen, those nutrients that can be somewhat concerning to water quality and public health. In the Lake George Park, we have about 6,200 septic systems. About 3,400 of those are in what we kind of consider the critical environmental area of Lake George, which is 500 feet of the lake shore and 100 feet of a stream, so about 55% are pretty close to water bodies in Lake George Park. I actually started out my professional career as a septic inspector, as exciting as that was. It's important work. So this is what could happen if you have an improperly designed, constructed, or maintained system. Those are the three pillars of properly functioning septic systems. Those three things need to be in place to make sure that septic systems aren't affecting public health or water quality, including E. coli, fecal bacteria, those types of things. But failing septics can also impact water quality as well. So if we have a system that is too shallow to bedrock, or is too shallow to water table, or doesn't have the proper soils, these limiting factors can affect the functioning of the septic system and actually can cause impacts to water quality as well. The picture at the bottom is a picture taken in Lake George in the littoral zone, very shallow area. And while no direct linkage currently exists in the large scale literature about septics impacting water quality, we have seen some smaller studies that have shown that when upgrades happen to septic systems in certain areas, we do see a reduction in some of those types of algae that are indicative of human-based pollution, i.e. failing septic systems. So we took a look at all of these issues kind of coming together and said, you know, does the commission need to take a step forward to ensure that the septic systems around Lake George are meeting the standards set forth by New York State in Part 75A of the New York State Health Code? So this is what is in commission law currently. Consultation with DEC, DOH, and the towns. The commission shall adopt rules and regulations for discharge of wastewater to ensure the protection of ground and surface waters. And as importantly, to study, monitor, and inspect for pollution from any source within the park, based on the regulations and authorities that we have. So these things taken together are what created the commission's original septic inspection program, septic management program back in the early 90s, that ultimately were vacated on a procedural ground, but ultimately the intent and the issue still remains. So the first step, of course, is to get the right people in the room to have these conversations. So any regulations related to wastewater, we have to have two parties be a party to these efforts and sign off ultimately on any new regulations, and that is DEC and the New York State Department of Health. So we're very fortunate to have two high-level individuals. Tom Snow, who runs the DEC New York City Watershed program, has been working on septic issues for decades, and also Kevin Kenyon, who does a great amount of septic system and wastewater work through our local area here in the Glens Falls office. In addition, you'll see some local prominent individuals. We have Sam Hall, the chairman of the Washington County Board. We have local planners, nonprofits, engineers. So we have a very good mix of people that are helping to guide and advise this process along the way. Every meeting that the commission has regarding these topics, these are public. We meet the first Thursday of each month at 2 p.m. on Zoom. Those meetings are always posted on the commission website under the septic page. I'll show you shortly. So to begin the process, we really looked at three key individual items. We had to understand, is this a real issue for Lake George? How do we find out if this is an issue for Lake George? And then what other lakes around New York State and really the Northeast have gone through this process already? Do we need to reinvent the wheel? So we're fortunate enough to have Chazen Engineers with us as our consultant. Chazen is one of the most noteworthy consulting firms really in New York State and the Northeast related to many of the topics that we're talking about. And they have been commissioned by our office to kind of assist us to go through this whole process. And one of the first tasks was to take a look at the existing literature that is most relevant to the issue that we're talking about today, which is septic system impacts and water quality. So they spent a considerable amount of time looking at the most relevant information, went study by study. This is kind of a breakdown of what the goal of the study was, what the takeaways were, what the methodologies they used. This is on our website as well as is the narrative summary. So Thanks to Chazen for their work on this as a partner so far. Our second step was to take a look at what are the limiting issues in the Lake George watershed that might be affecting the functioning of septic systems. So this map on the right is actually a map of the steep slopes within the Lake George watershed. You can see it's considerably red. That means it's exceeding a 15% slope in Lake George Park. That's just one of the factors that our staff took a look at to research and analyze, what could be the potential factors that are affecting septic systems really in the Lake George watershed. So this is kind of one of the many tables that we've developed internally, again, all on our website, that talk about, how many septics are adjacent to wetlands or have low hydraulic conductivity soils, essentially clay soils, shallow water table, poor drainage, those types of things. And all of these things result in kind of a map that shows where some of the more concerning areas are on a parcel by parcel basis. This methodology follows what the town of Lake George and the DEC and the Lake George Waterkeeper used as a means to identify and understand some of the challenges we're seeing with wastewater in the Lake George Park. So the darker the red in the picture, the more limiting factors, i.e. depth to bedrock, bad soils, some of these areas might have, as you can expect in some of the more trickier problematic areas, like Rockhurst, Cloverdale, Assembly Point, some of the areas around Diamond Point. And there's some challenging areas, but we did this for the entire Lake George Park. And what did we find? So here's a few key findings that we had, kind of along the way. About 70% of the parcels in the park are on private septic. About half of these are within the CEA, as we kind of talked about. This is kind of an important fact. About 80% of the septic systems in the Lake George Park are subject to a limiting factor, whether it's poor soils, shallow to bedrock, those types of things, steep slope perhaps. And the median parcel size is less than an acre. So there's limited room for some of these properties to be able to move around their system to more viable areas. And the age of the properties, the structures in the Lake George Park, approximately 50 years old. If you take a look, about 85% of the homes in the Lake George Park average between 15 years and 75 years. What we haven't been able to identify as specifically right now is how many of those houses, those structures have replaced those systems in that time. So that's a work in progress. So lastly, what we wanted to identify was if we were to move in a certain direction towards inspecting septics or looking at standards, what have other water bodies in New York State done towards this? And turns out there's quite a few. This is Otsego Lake. Otsego Lake is going on 20 years of septic inspection programs, and many of the Finger Lakes have had similar programs in place for years. So we took a look and talked to all of these different managers across the water bodies in New York State. What did you find in the first iteration of septic inspections? What did you do with any additional standards if possible? And it results in kind of an overview of what those programs consist of. Taking a look at Keuka Lake. Keuka inspects septics every 5 years within the critical environmental area. And then the other systems within the watershed, they do on property transfer. Each program is tailored to that individual lake. They have different costs. They have different program managers. Again, all of this is identified on our website, and it was very insightful for us to understand how these folks were, how they got the programs in place, how they manage them, what their funding streams are. So if we do move in a certain direction, we're not really recreating the wheel. I've mentioned our septic system websites, the information on our website about septic systems right under programs, and then you'll see all the resources that our committee has had availability to take a look at are instantly available to the public, and of course all of our commissioners to take a look at where are we currently, what information have we used to get to where we are. And it is our goal, as it always is, to be as open and transparent as possible and to make sure that as many people as are interested in the subject are aware of what we're working on. So we're going to be working on considerable outreach as we move forward. We've already tried to get as much information in the media as possible because we want feedback. We want people to understand if there are issues then we've taken a look at it. And if we're going to move in a certain direction, that they understand the process that we're going through. So what are our next steps? Currently, we've had, I believe, 4 or 5 overall advisory committee meetings. Again, we meet once a month. That committee has recommended, as of our last meeting, to advance more detailed concepts for a septic system inspection program for Lake George. We haven't discussed finality on what specific area that might include, whether it's a critical environmental area or the park in general. The committee is also recommending that we look at the current technical standards. And as Vice Chairman Parker just mentioned, we do have a committee meeting, I believe it's this Friday, to discuss the current status of what is in Part 75A and what are other towns really in watersheds around the state doing if they're finding some challenges or limitations with their septics in their particular area. Can we do something different and better perhaps? So by midwinter, I believe it's our goal to have some recommendations put forth for our full board to consider in moving forward with either a septic system inspection program and or some new standards, perhaps if variances are required for new septic programs. But we have a lot of work to do. We have to discover exactly how would a funding mechanism work? How could we inspect if we were looking at the critical environmental area? 3,400 septic systems is no small charge. Currently, the town of Queensbury, we meet with the town of Queensbury and most of their septic inspections now when we can. We've attended dozens of them. The town of Queensbury undertakes between 100 and 150 inspections per year. We would be looking at more in the range of 800 to 1,000 per year with currently no new dedicated staff to do that. So we'd have to look at models of how that could work. So all of this is information that we're gathering, analyzing with the people that we have on the committee. And I think we're making good progress. We have had support from our communities around Lake George. The mayor, town supervisors have reached out to me, encouraging that we continue along this path. We don't know what the end game is going to be yet, but I think we've taken the right steps so far. So that is my quick summary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to share that, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if I can get out of this. There we go.
You have any questions for Dave? Commissioners? No. Thank you, Dave and Ken.
Thank you to everybody.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is the Law Enforcement Committee report. Ken?
Thank you. Again, the Law Enforcement Committee met this morning, and Lieutenant Johns advised us that we still have a couple of boats in the water, and we're almost down to 1 boat in the water. We discussed how we respond in a timely manner at this time of year, and it's due to hard work by the Marine Patrol. And our last day officially on the water, even though we'll have a boat available to go in the water, is Sunday, October 31st. We then discussed some enforcement actions, and then we went into executive session to discuss some specific enforcement activity. But I do have a resolution 2021-47, whereas the Law Enforcement Committee met via teleconference on October 26, 2021, to review matters pertaining to the Lake George Park Commission's Marine Patrol and the Commission's law enforcement program. And whereas active law enforcement cases and their status were reviewed in executive session. And whereas the Law Enforcement Committee has reported on the results of that committee meeting at this full commission meeting. And whereas the Law Enforcement Committee recommends acceptance of this month's law enforcement report. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the commission accepts the report of the Law Enforcement Committee, and I would make that a motion.
And it's been seconded by Joe Mason. All in favor? Show of hands, all in favor? It's been passed. Thank you, Ken. Next item is with public comments period, and Justin, you'll have to moderate that one.
No problem. Ginger, I know you had just sent me a message. Do you want to make a comment about anything? You are muted.
Yeah, I know. I do, but I'm going to have Lorraine, I'm going to yield to Lorraine Ruffing. I think she wanted to make a comment. And then I would like to make a comment.
Okay, Lorraine.
Well, thank you again. Yeah, I did, but we went so fast in the agenda. I guess, you know, I wasn't asleep at the wheel, but, you know, we're very interested, you know, in what the commission has come up with in terms of the septic program. And we are really pleased that it has recognized the need to develop a septic inspection program. And I think there's widespread support, you know, for such a program. And I think the evidence of this are the resolutions that the town boards of Bolton, The Hague, Lake George, Ticonderoga, Queensberry, and the village of Lake George have passed. So I think all the towns have stated, you know, that they really believe that the commission is the appropriate entity to take on this task, because you are empowered by the state, you know, to adopt new rules. In addition, I think, as you know, the grassroots organizations of Assembly Point, Cleverdale, Rockhurst, Downers Bay, and The Hague, you know, also support action by the commission. And we feel that the inclusion of inspection, maintenance, and design criteria in a program will meet the needs of the sensitive waters of Lake George. So again, bravo. I think we're finally on the path to getting something done. And thank you very much.
Okay, so I just want to second what Lorraine said. I really appreciate the fact, all the work that's gone into this. I thought it was an excellent presentation by Dave, and also appreciate all the transparency and openness. I used to be on the Hague Town Board, and I still attend the meetings, and we sometimes get applications for, or the board sometimes gets applications as the DOH, as the local DOH, for septic systems and variances. And to be honest, I think anybody will tell you that most town board members are not experts in that and have a hard time regulating. Pardon me? That have a hard time making those decisions and knowing what to do. The other thing I wanted to say is with this transparency and openness, which I think is great, I think I'm spent my life pretty much in communications, and I think that is going to be a very, very important part of this. And just like you have a technical committee, it might be wise to make sure that you have communicators who are thinking about where the opposition might be and putting together a communications plan. Not even just when you get it all done, but as right from the start, so that people understand what's being done, even if they don't go to the website. So a proactive communication strategy and plan. Thank you.
Are there any more comments does anyone like to make? Most folks are muted, so if you would like to make a comment, make sure you're unmuted before you start speaking.
You have no more comments? Is that correct, Justin?
Seems that way.
Looks like Chris Nowicki has his hand up.
Thank you. Yes, I just saw that. Chris, you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Sure, thanks. I appreciate it, Justin. Thank you, commissioners. I just want to thank Dave and the staff for their presentation and the data that they put together. I think some of the findings coming out are justifications for the commission to move forward. I'll reserve my recommendations at this time as we meet in other meetings, but clearly, you know, I feel that there's been evidence of impacts to the water quality. And as we move forward, I think we need to recognize the importance of Lake George and the AA special water quality designation it has, and remember that it's a drinking water source. And that we should look for other watersheds that have that, primarily the New York City watershed. And I'm glad Tom Snow's on that committee as well, because we do need to take it, I feel, a step above what Department of Health standards are. Really, recognize the exceptional water quality that we need to protect and that the commission has been put in charge of protecting. So again, great job and thanks a lot.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone
Any
else?
other comments?
Motion?
That's it.
Mr. Chairman,
Bill?
I'm sorry. I just, in regards to all of this openness and communication, the one subject that hasn't come up this month, and I don't know if everyone is aware of it, that we did have a harmful algae bloom on Lake George in the beginning part of this month, the beginning of October. And I thought that it would come up as a discussion topic, either from the commissioners on the agenda or from the public. And I just wanted to make sure everyone at least was aware that we had one. It is, as far as I know, it's gone. And I would let the scientists speak to it better. They would be much better equipped to deal with it than I would. I did witness it at our own docks, but anyway, enough said.
Thank you. No more comments? In that case, I'll accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead. Doc.
before we adjourn, if possible, could we have an executive session for about 5 minutes to discuss some potential litigation?
Okay, well, I need a motion to go to executive session. I have a motion. All in favor of executive session? Okay, you have to.
Motion to leave executive session?
Second.
All in favor?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Yeah, we're out of executive session. I got a motion to adjourn. I had a second from Dave Floyd, all agreeing to adjourn. Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Carla.
Bye-bye.
I've been told my battery's running down.